When most people start the process of looking for a home, they start by thinking about the big all-in number, right? This home is going to cost me $500,000. Oh my God, how am I going to come up with that money? What does that look like on paper? What is that going to really cost me once I have a mortgage associated with it? So today we're going to go through what the actual cost of your mortgage would be in today's market expectations using an average two-bedroom home in Wicker Park, Chicago. I'm going to keep this real simple so that if you want to replicate this exact breakdown at home, you can do it exactly like I'm doing it. So the website I'm going to go to, I like Bankrate. They have a mortgage calculator. It's pretty easy to use. You can just plug in the numbers that you know, and it should give you, within a relatively close degree of certainty, your estimated monthly payment, inclusive of your actual mortgage costs, your property taxes, your homeowner's insurance, your PMI, which will be based on whether or not you're going to put 20% down or not, and then HOA fees, which is dependent on if you're buying a condo. For today's video, I'm going to assume that we're buying a condo. So just setting our example here, you're buying a two-bedroom condo in Wicker Park. Maybe you want something that's a little bit nicer, it's updated so that you don't have to do any work, so you're buying slightly above median market value. Median market value for a two-bed in Wicker Park, somewhere around $450,000. Let's say your price point is $500,000, keep round numbers here. So you want to know exactly what your monthly cost is going to be at a $500,000 purchase price in today's lending market. At the time I'm making this video, rates right now for a condo are roughly 6.6%. So I'm going to use 6.6% as the assumption for this video. If rates improve, your costs will go down. If rates get worse, your costs will go up. Rule of thumb when you're thinking about interest rates, for every 1% that interest rate adjusts, you lose 10% of your buying power, assuming adjusted up. So if rates were at 5 and they jumped to 6, you lost 10% of your purchase power, meaning if you were looking at $500,000, all of a sudden your max budget would be somewhere around $450,000. So if you want to use that, keep that in your back pocket as interest rates start to jump, or if they start to decrease, you can kind of gauge how much that is impacting your purchase power in the marketplace just using that sort of 1 to 10 adjustment. Running the numbers here, $500,000 purchase price, you're going to put 10% down. Loan term, most people are going to get a 30-year loan. Certainly if you wanted to get slightly better rates, something more aggressive, you could look at a 15-year. For the sake of this conversation, we're going to assume you got a 30-year fixed loan at that 6.6% interest rate, and that's how we're going to run our numbers. Now, on a $500,000 property, we need to make some assumptions for this because I'm not going to use a real example. Let's just keep it to a broad home address that doesn't really exist so that we're not blowing up anybody's recent purchase. Looking at property taxes, for a home in Chicago, $500,000 purchase price, taxes are going to be around 2%. Could be a little bit higher, could be a little bit lower, but for the sake of example, it's safe to assume a tax bill of roughly $10,000. So if we're breaking that out on a monthly cost, we're just going to go ahead and put $835, keep the math nice, round, and simple here. I'm just going to leave this at the 66 that's in here. Generally, that's why you put the zip code in so that Bankrate can play around with it. But again, if you want to just shop quickly online for some rates, see what your homeowner's insurance might be depending on your situation, feel free. This next section is PMI. So PMI is going to be included on your loan depending on your down payment amount. If you're a stronger buyer in the sense that you have a higher down payment, you're putting 20% down, you're not going to have PMI on your loan. But if you're putting something less, 10, 5, 7, anything in between, you're likely going to have some kind of mortgage interest on your monthly payment. Now, you can make estimates for this based on sort of your purchase price, and a lot of it is going to be dictated by your credit score and how much money you actually loan out. But just for the sake of example, I would say on the low end, if this was just a $100,000 or $200,000 purchase, you might have close to $100 in PMI. Because we're talking about a $500,000 purchase, we're going to estimate higher. So maybe your PMI is going to be somewhere around $300 a month. All you lenders out there, you might be screaming right now. I could be off. Yours might be less, might be higher. But I think rough estimate here, $300 for your PMI is a good place to start. Your HOA fees for a two-bedroom can vary pretty significantly. But if you're using just a baseline to start with, I'm going to use $350 here. Reason being that most condos, particularly if we're talking Wicker Park, you're not going to have a lot of amenities included. It's not going to be a building that's got a huge elevator in it that needs a lot of upkeep. So hopefully those fees aren't up close to $1,000 like they might be on the lakeshore. Then again, they're probably not low around 100 or 200 because you still have to keep ample reserves for the building. You probably have some sort of security system in place. Maybe you even have cleaning crews, snow removal, things like that. If you want to see more great content on buying a condo in Chicago, check out my other video on buying a condo in Chicago. We have great tips, especially if this is your first time going through the process, to make sure you're getting an asset that's right for you, that's comfortable, and you don't accidentally make some mistakes along the way. So again, let's go ahead and use 350 as our baseline here. So here's our breakdown. If you were to make this purchase, $500,000 home, 10% down using a 30-year loan, 6.6% interest, you would have a total payment with your principal of interest of roughly $2,873. So that's just the mortgage portion, principal and interest. On top of that, you're going to have your property taxes, which come in at $835. You're going to have your homeowner's insurance. Again, we just use the estimate in the tool here at 66, your PMI at 300, and your HOA fees at 350. So your total estimated monthly payment for this property at all these terms understood as they are would be $4,424. So when you're going to make estimates or when you're trying to figure out how much home you want to afford, how much home you can afford, it's really not about the large number that you get on your pre-approval. And in many cases, I would even say most cases, buyers really don't end up spending their max pre-approved loan amount. Instead, a pre-approval is meant to be a guideline of sorts, a swim lane, if you will. It's meant to keep you from overspending compared to what the bank will lend to you. But only you can decide what you're actually comfortable with in terms of your monthly payment. For some, it's critically important to keep their monthly mortgage payment, their taxes, everything as low as possible because maybe they live a lifestyle where they're not home. They like to travel. Work requires them to be on the road a lot. So it doesn't make sense for them to sink a lot of money into that asset when they're not going to be there for a significant amount of time. For you personally, maybe home means the world to you and you want to pay for more comfort, more amenities, and you're willing to take on these higher costs in exchange for having the living style you expect. Only you can make those decisions, but no matter what, the way you want to think about home buying is to break down the numbers and make sure you understand not only what you're going to owe the lender in both your principal and your interest, but what you're going to owe in taxes, and maybe more importantly, what you're going to owe in those HOA fees, particularly if you're going to be living in a condo that has any sort of upcoming assessments, changes, or expectations for major money to be withdrawn in the near future. Hopefully this content was helpful. Share it with a friend if so. I'll see you next time.